All right, safe vehicle towing and recovery stuff, extraction techniques. All right, so this course came out of kind of a demand here in the UP, where there was a lot of accidents and injuries, people getting their legs ripped off, happened numerous times here in the UP because of improper safe vehicle towing and recovery. Do you guys have any stories at all? Typically, there's always one in the class of anything that kind of went horribly wrong when it comes to pulling somebody out or
chain snap, come across the front of the truck, right through the windshield.
no, right through the
Right from the back, across the top. You could hear it running across the Suburban, and the end of it snapped right into the windshield.
right into the windshield. Oh my God.
So now you realize you got to put something over that cable so it doesn't go that far.
Well, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So it shows you how dangerous that situation was, and if you were anywhere near that or anyone else, I mean, that would have been horrible. You know what I mean? Yeah, that would have been horrible. And so those are the types of situations that I'm talking about. There was a guy that came through the course here. This was last year, maybe a year ago or so. And I was doing this, and he's like, "Let me show you what happens." And he lifted up his leg, and he had a prosthetic leg, and it was from a chain that had broke, and he was too close. It whipped around, cut his leg off. And I was like, oh my God, you know what I mean? But this is a common thing. And so it's important that, you know what, we all kind of think we know how to do it. Well, this is the right way to do it, the best way to do it, the safe way to do it. And so we'll talk about these different things. So like I said, and that's, and just by a show, how many people have ever been stuck or ever know someone that's been stuck or had to pull somebody out, right? And yeah, this is a common thing. This is not like you'll never have to pull something. This is like almost a monthly thing for me, I feel like. Somebody calls me up and they took the logging road they shouldn't have taken, or they're up to camp in the springtime when road restrictions are on and it's all muddy and nasty and everything else. So this is important to know this stuff for sure. So why a course on safe vehicle recovery? Because simply people don't know how to safely recover vehicles when stuck. Why do people get stuck? So you know what, going up to camps, logging roads, two tracking, you go off-roading or mudding. I mean, people search out the mud pits, right? I used to do that quite a bit back in the day, just to get stuck, just to have to get unstuck. You know, it's part of the process. Ice and snow, that's huge. And then heavy equipment recovery as well. There's plenty of times where you'll get that front end loader stuck, or you'll get a bulldozer stuck, or you'll get a backhoe stuck. Well, how do you get a piece of heavy equipment unstuck, and what's the safe way to do that? So we'll talk about those things. So proper recovery could save your life. So I'm going to read these guys, but I will tell you, do a quick Google search, and you're going to find hundreds of situations like this across the country. So this is something that is definitely in a big demand as far as being able to, knowing how to do it the right way. So on April 8th, a 38-year-old male volunteer firefighter, the victim was struck by a shackle on a recoiling tow rope and died 3 days later. The fire department was dispatched to a controlled burn that escaped its boundaries. Firefighters arrived on the scene, extinguished the fire, and started departing the scene. An engine was driven out of a soybean field when it became stuck in the mud. An attempt was made to tow the engine from the field using a tractor, tow rope, and screw-type shackle on either end of the tow rope, attached to the tractor and the engine. With the victim sitting in the driver's seat of the engine, another firefighter sitting in the passenger seat, a farmer started moving the tractor forward. When tension was applied to the tow rope, the shackle on the tractor failed, and the tow rope with its shackle attached recoiled toward the engine. The shackle smashed through the windshield, struck the victim in the forehead, and then proceeded out through the back window. Other firefighters staying in the area witnessed the incident and called EMS. The victim was transported by ambulance to a local hospital and then airlifted to a metropolitan trauma center. The victim died 3 days later due to the injuries he sustained in the incident. Here's another one. A man was killed by a flying tow strap Tuesday night in Miami County while trying to help a stranded motorist. Miami County Sheriff Tim Miller released a statement Wednesday saying Glenn Music was pronounced dead Tuesday evening by the coroner. Witnesses said Music was using his pickup truck and tow strap to pull a vehicle belonging to Harold from a ditch along 300 North. The strap came loose from the stuck vehicle, sending the metal end of the strap through Music's rear window, striking Music and causing a fatal head wound. Music's 4-year-old daughter was a passenger in the vehicle and not injured. So, like I said, there's a lot of situations and stories like this out there, and that's why this training is so important, because this is something that is going to happen. You'll get stuck, but how do we properly recover? Okay, so know before you pull, so you can see the fire truck and where that shackle went through. And you can see, wasn't stuck that bad in the grand scheme of things. A little bit of mud, that's all something we've seen before. That's very common here in the Midwest. All right, so we're going to start with telling the difference between a recovery strap versus a tow strap. So tow strap is going to be what the majority of you guys are familiar with, and a tow strap is used for towing. Bless you, Jess. Used for towing, should only be used for towing. There's no flex, there's no elasticity, and it's very rigid, and it has shock load. So shock load is going to be the force here, guys, that's going to break straps, it's going to break chains, it's going to rip off bumpers, and we want to minimize shock load. And so we need something to absorb that shock load, and that's going to be where that recovery strap, that snatch strap, comes into play. And so once again, with the tow strap, this will be labeled as tow. Heavy duty tow strap, working load limit 6,600 pounds, braking strength 20,000 pounds. And once again, just to define the tow, say, Jess, your alternator goes out, you know what I mean? So your battery's going to drain down, it'll die, and all of a sudden your car will just stop in the middle of the road. You'll get off, of course, in anticipation of this happening. And then you call your good buddy Terry over here, say, hey, can you give me a tow? You know that? So he hooks up his tow strap, and he pulls you to the maintenance shop to get it fixed, and then you're good to go. You're not stuck. He doesn't have to reef you out or jerk you out of the ditch or anything like that. So different situation, all right? Ronnie was big jacked up truck, decides to go mudding, and he goes down a 2-track road, and it's full of mud and gets buried, all right? Now we're not going to use a tow strap. We're going to use a recovery strap because we're going to have to really give them and reef them out, and that's going to require a lot more force, and so we'll talk about that. So tow strap, recovery strap. Recovery strap, also known as a snatch strap, it has elasticity and flex, 15 to 30%. So for instance, your recovery straps, guys, like this, the recovery straps are going to have that lower flex, about 15%. And then your recovery ropes, which are going to be like this, your recovery ropes are going to have that upwards of 30%. So they both stretch, they're both effective. Your ropes are going to have that higher elasticity and that stretch. Uses kinetic energy to recover vehicles by stretching, and it doesn't have shock load. So once again, that shock load is going to be the force that we're trying to minimize with all this. And so think of it like a big rubber band. Where it stretches, it absorbs that force, it absorbs that shock load, and then that same kinetic energy that gets built up in the strap, it pulls it right out of the ditch, out of being stuck, whatever it happens to be. So how do you know the difference? Well, it's going to be right on the packaging. All right, so you can see this one right here, 30-foot recovery strap, 2 inches wide stretch and recoil action. Don't get stuck without it. 10,000 pound max vehicle weight. Okay, perfect. So 10,000 pound max vehicle weight is another way of saying 10,000 pound working load limit. What about this one, Ronnie? We got a tow strap, 8,500 pound. Look at that. We got cheap galvanized cast hooks there. I can hook that right up under your plastic bumper. I'll get you out of there, right? It'll work out perfect. Yeah. No, yeah, that's a big no-no. And I will tell you, no recovery strap has hooks on it. They just don't make them like that. So you see that, you know that's tow, and you know that hook is actually what killed the second guy, because that'll break right off and come flying back in the other direction. So not something that we want to use. So that's important. All right, specifications on equipment. So this is really important as well. Everything that you use when it comes to recovery has to be rated. That's important. So everything is going to have a working load limit on it. Everything is going to have a braking strength on it, the braking point on it, or minimum braking strength. Everything should be rated. So that's really important. You also want to know, okay, the vehicle being recovered, what is the weight of the vehicle? What's the working load limit of the recovery point? That's important. Recovery strap or snatch strap, you need one that the brake strength is at least double that of your vehicle's weight, if it's not labeled kind of accordingly. And then if you decide to use a bow shackle, D-shackle or clevis, whatever you want to use with it, bow shackle kind of looks like a bow. It better have a stamped working load limit on it. And so what they mean by that, guys, is is here we have a couple of shackles here, and let me take a look here. All right, here we have a couple of shackles, right? And now these may look pretty similar, all right? But what's the big difference between the shackles other than the obvious size? Yeah, exactly. One has a stamped working load limit and one doesn't. So that volunteer firefighter, all right, picked up a shackle like this, right? Didn't realize the difference between these two. One is heat treated tempered steel, and one is cast, cheap, can easily break, all right, shackle, all right? So when you're using these shackles, you better have a stamped working load limit. If it doesn't have a stamped working load limit, you know it doesn't have that shear strength, and that's really important because these, like I said, they make them just as big as this, all right? That's a big difference, all right? So you want to make sure they're heat treated, make sure they're stamped, so that way they have that shear strength, all right? So here's another one. They look, another one, you see the stamped working load limit, so feel free to pass that around, that one, and that one. There you go. So you can see kind of the differences between these shackles and what they look like. So using a bow shackle, you better have a stamped working load limit on it, and then we'll talk about how to use that shackle properly. All right. Here, once again, we got a four-wheel drive recovery snatch strap. So minimum braking strength, 10,000 kilograms. All right, who can do some quick conversion for me? 2.2 pounds. All right, thank you, Shane. All right, so per kilogram, per pound. Okay, Josh is definitely not a math major. All right, double that. Okay, so about 22,000 pounds. All right, so 22,000 pound minimum braking strength. Okay, that. So could you use that for your vehicle? Absolutely, absolutely. That would be plenty. All right, so this stuff is important to keep in the back of your mind here. All right. So we got recovery points on the front of vehicles, recovery points on the back of vehicles. But the thing is about those hooks or loops is they're going to be labeled as one of three things. Either a tie-down point, which is going to be used by like a car hauler to tie it down in transit. A tow point, which is going to be used to tow the vehicle here or there. Or a recovery point that's actually can be used to recover the vehicle. Now the question is, how do you know the difference and what are we looking at when it comes to the difference of these things? So recovery points on vehicles will be attached using a 360-degree weld or connected by 2 grade 8 bolts. That's how you know whether that hook or loop on the front of your vehicle is a recovery point, and then you can reef on it accordingly. The other thing, on the back of your vehicle, a lot of people like to use this. The old tow ball, all right? I will tell you, never use your hitch tow ball for vehicle recovery. Why? Because it's renowned for becoming bullets and killing people, all right? And why is that, guys? What's up with the tow ball there? What's that? Yeah, the ball literally coming off. And why would the ball break off like that? Because this isn't what? It's not rated, and it's not heat-treated steel. Yeah, it doesn't have a high tensile strength, which is going to be the grade. So most balls are going to be grade 3 or grade 4-3, maybe grade 5, but they're not going to be, when it comes to recovery equipment, we want a minimum G7 when it comes to that stuff. And so like any stamped shackle is going to be a minimum G7, if not G8. All right, which is going to have that higher tensile strength, that higher grade. And so tensile strength just means the force it takes to literally break it. And so once again, you can do a quick Google search, and you see a lot of people that have been injured, hurt, killed, a lot of stuff that's been damaged because of that tow ball. You do not want to use your tow ball for vehicle recovery. And once again, so what do you want to use? As opposed to the hitch tow ball, we want to use a recovery hitch. And a recovery hitch looks something like this right here, all right? And so what this means is you have your pin, which is going to be rated. It has to be because it's metal on metal. You have your block here, which is rated. And notice how it's a solid block, right? Your typical, in your pickup truck, what's your typical Reese hitch going to look like? Yeah, it's going to be square stock, right? It's going to be thin, square stock. Yeah, this is solid. This is solid metal. And then you have your bow shackle here as well, your D-shackle, and so that's also going to be rated as well. So this is what we'd want to use, as you can see over here, is an actual recovery hitch. And that's why you see these in a lot of like Jeeps and different things that do this all the time for fun. They equip with the right recovery equipment, all right? So I can feel free to pass that around as well there. That's important. Okay, so going back to the recovery point, guys, because you see a lot of different kinds of hooks and loops and different things on the front of vehicles. I will tell you, like, for instance, we'll look at this hook right here, all right? This hook is off of a GMC pickup truck. Now, according to this definition, recovery points in vehicles be attached using a 360-degree weld. They're connected by 2 grade 8 bolts. Is this hook a tie-down point, tow point, or a recovery point? A recovery. How do you know? It's attached by 2 grade 8 bolts. And how do you know those are grade 8?
There's no other reason it would be there.
There's no other reason it would be there. The bolts are stamped with grade there. Yeah. So you see these dashes here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dashes on the head of the bolt. Scott picked up on that. What does that mean? That means it's grade 8. All right? Grade 8. If there were 3 dashes, that means it's grade 5. So you ever go buy bolts before? Buy a box of grade 5 bolts, buy a box of grade 8 bolts. Difference in price? Huge difference. Like it's double. Why? Because one has tensile strength and one does not. All right? Big difference. So this hook is attached with 2 grade 8 bolts. So what kind of point is this? This is a recovery point. Yeah. Now this is off a GMC. Now recently here I took a look at a lot of pickup trucks. A lot of Chevy pickup trucks have what on the front? Tow hooks on the front, tow points, which is why you ever reef on one of those, what happens to it? It breaks right off. Yeah, because it's a tow point. It's not a recovery point. So I will tell you, a lot of like your HD vehicles will have recovery points on the front. A lot of your diesels, they'll put recovery points on the front. A lot of just your regular Chevy, like 1500s, they'll put just tow points on the front. A lot of your Jeeps, they'll put recovery points on the front. Fords a lot of times have loops, and those can be either recovery or tow. It depends on how they're designed. So it's important to take a look. Take a look at what you have in the front and use that algorithm. Is it attached with a 360-degree weld, or is it connected using 2 grade 8 bolts? Yes?
That bolt point above, I guess in the tow ball part, says you can use the pin.
Yes.
Can you just loop the strap through
So
the pin?
So yes. Okay. So what Andre's saying here is you can use the pin in the Reese hitch. All right. So if you have a tow ball, you technically have a recovery point. Now, guys, I will be honest with you. I do not like this recovery point. Where's that Reese hitch? Where's that Reese hitch? Is it back there? Okay. Perfect. Can't have it. All right. You want to bring her up here, big dog? Thank you so much. All right. So if you have your tow ball, that means you have a pin. Now the pin has to be rated because it's loose metal on metal. And so what they're saying here is you can take your strap and you can put it inside of your Reese hitch and then connect it like this, and you have your pin on through, and that is a viable recovery point. Now I do not like this, and I'll tell you why, and I've seen it happen, is because unless you have a perfectly straight pull, what's going to happen? You're going to shear your strap. And I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen where you're at a slight angle, boom, you get that much tension on it. Think about, oh God, I'll go with a deer. You ever got a deer, right? You got all that tension right there and you just slit the belly, what happens? Right, yeah, it opens right up, butterflies. Same type of thing, all right? When it's like that and it hits just a little bit, that sharp edge, it'll slice that strap easily. So I don't like that. Is that a viable way? Yes, but I don't like that. It's much better off using a recovery hitch because not only is this not going to come off the strap once it's on here, but everything is smooth. There's no place that can be cut or anything like that. All right, so it's just much safer to do it that way. But you are right, that would be a viable way, but I don't like it. I'd rather spend the $25-30 on a recovery hitch. Yeah. Let's see here. Boom, boom. Okay, on the front of Jeeps, a lot of times you see these. All right. I will tell you, Sometimes they are recovery, and sometimes they are for looks. All right. So I've seen this a couple of times now. Well, guys will hook onto this and they'll rip that out of the actual bull bar. It's one of those things because a lot of recovery points are going to be attached directly to the frame. All right, underneath. Yeah, that's attached to the bull bar. Bull bar is attached to the frame. If it isn't all rated all the way back, you know what I mean, that's where you're going to have issues. So if you got a Jeep, double check that. I know a few guys that literally have those on for looks, and then the recovery is underneath inside. Okay, so keep an eye on that. I've seen that happen a couple times. Any questions on this stuff so far, guys? Anything at all, Colton? All right. How about my resident guy in the back? All right. Yeah. All right. You good? All right. Just making sure. If someone was going to give me some crap, it would be that guy back there. All right. You know it. You know it. All right. Oh, and you're actually listening. Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. I would. I love it. I love it. All right. So rigging your vehicle recovery. We want to use a bridle whenever possible. All right, so this is what I had in my setup, guys, just to see. And what it is you ever heard of a tree saver strap or a bridle strap? And what it is, it's a toe strap, and it's specifically designed to be used as a bridle. And what that means is, Shane, you want to hold out. Give me your best couple of hooks, will you? So we're going to hook up one to one hook, one on the other hook, and then this is a bridle strap. So as opposed to putting all that pressure just on one side, which you couldn't do with recovery equipment, you can break it up and say it's 2,000 pounds. Now as opposed to putting all that 2,000 pounds on one recovery point, you can break it up. And now you can put 1,000 pounds along those lines. I towed a lot of people out. And so, for instance, Chevy pickup trucks. So we talk about those hooks. And I've seen a lot of guys with broken hooks on the front because those are tow hooks, right? Now, every Chevy pickup truck I've pulled out, I've always used a bridle with a recovery strap. And I've never broken a tow hook, right? Because when you break a tow hook, chances are you're hooking up to just one. And number one, and then number two, you're using probably a tow strap that you shouldn't be using. And so when you take away the shock load, and now we disperse that weight, it's going to make the whole process that much safer. All right. So I definitely recommend that. So you can see this right here. You have the bridle going to the left, going to the right, and a nice even pull. And once again, these are called bridle straps. They're just toe straps, but they're designed to be used as a bridle, like that. Next here, if a bridle recovery strap is connected to a recovery hook as opposed to a D-shackle, use tape to secure. So if it's an actual hook, guys, we want to put some tape around it to make sure that it's not going to come off, if that makes sense. So, all right, so Shane, just because, you picked the front row, Shane, all right? Yeah, so hold it out just like that. I know, I can't be easy. All right, so we're going to take it and we're going to hook it onto our hook here. And that hook's kind of a tiny little hook, but it gives us a good example. All right, so now we'll grab some tape here, and now we're going to secure it onto the hook. And so what we're doing here is just we're going to take it and we're going to wrap it around the 2 points of the hook right there. And then we're going to make sure that it's not going to accidentally come off, because we don't want this stuff coming off mid-pull. And so as you can see, that ain't going anywhere. All right. All right, fantastic. So that's what that kind of looks like, guys. That's what they're talking about there. And then we want to use a strap jacket or strap blanket for safety. And so this part, a lot of people fail to do, and I highly encourage you do it. So you can actually use a jacket or a blanket or floor mats, just something, or you could buy this fancy thing. So this is designed to, it's weighted, and it's also designed to actually put rocks inside of it as well. And then when you do pull on it, if by chance something does fail, which if you're using all the right stuff, you're minimizing that, you're taking away the vast majority of risks. But if by chance something does fail, this is the middle of your pull, and that'll drop down to the ground and stop it from from swinging all over the place. It'll stop that from happening. So once again, that's what they call a strap jacket. Because there's always a risk. There's always a risk, but we want to minimize those risks as much as possible. All right, and that's what we're getting at there. Any questions so far? All right. Yes, sir.
What about just a standard vehicle that doesn't have any of this and you're pulling it out of the ditch?
We'll talk about that. All right, you got a standard vehicle that doesn't have all the fancy stuff, right? Is it like a lot of like unibody cars and different things, right? Yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. We'll loop back around. Okay, so up until this point, guys, I really don't recommend using chains for vehicle recovery. The reason for that is because chains can handle what they call a lot of torque, but they can't handle shock load. That shock load is what causes chains to break. It's what causes bumpers to get ripped off. They can't handle shock load. They can handle a lot of torque, but they can't handle shock load. And so for the majority of vehicle recovery, if Derek, you're stuck in the ditch or something, I'm going to need to put a few feet of slack into that strap and give you a good tug. If I do that with a chain, I am going to break something. You know what I mean? Think about it like this. Think about it like, hold a bowling ball out in your hand, all right? You got that bowling ball, you can hold it out. No problem, right? Now take that same bowling ball and drop it from the ceiling. And you know what? I'm going to put a 2x4 behind your arm too. I'm going to brace your arm, all right? What's going to happen? You're going to break your arm, right? Because there's so much more force now that's coming into play when we put slack in that, which is okay to do with recovery equipment, but not okay to do with tow equipment, all right? And that's what chains are for, is for towing. So that's like chains and cables, good for towing. They can handle a lot of torque. They can't handle shock load. Is that starting to make sense, guys? And so, but I will tell you, you do see chains get used often in heavy equipment recovery because they can torque it out. Now, what pieces of machines or heavy equipment do you have a lot of torque that you wouldn't have to worry about having to put a lot of slack in the strap or the chain? Yeah, exactly. So the dozer, right? The dozer, you're not really able to jerk a chain with a dozer if you wanted to, because it's just slow and you have a ton of torque and you can walk that piece of equipment right out. And so that's what they're talking about with heavy equipment recovery is you know, you tighten it up, you tighten that chain up, and then you walk it out nice and slow. And it's what they call torque it out. They torque it out properly, as opposed to using a snatch strap or a recovery strap. Now the next thing here is, can we just use any chain? No, exactly. Now what kind of chain do we want to use? All right. So the minimum chain that we're going to use is going to be G7 half-inch chain. All right. If we're torquing out a piece of heavy equipment, G7 half-inch chain. Now I will tell you, like the DNR and stuff, I've seen on the back of some of your guys' bulldozers and stuff, you will have a G8 chain back there, and that is ideal, all right, because a G8 is another level of shear strength to make sure that isn't going to break, all right? So once again, minimum G7 half-inch or greater, all right? We're not using a G5, we're not using a G4-3, we're not using a G3, and if you don't know what the grade of that chain is, it's not a good idea to use it, all right? Now, you can tell that by a chain simply by looking at the chain. So for instance, we're going to take our chain here, and I can look at the hook. I can look at the hook and say, oh, look at this thing is 5/16. Can we use this chain? No, we can't. Even though it's, oh, that means the whole chain is good too, right? Get out of here. Get out of here. Slick Willie over there. All right, so 5/16, so we know that this is not a chain that we can use. Even though this is G7, right? And how do we know it's G7? Because it is stamped G7. But you just brought up a great question, all right? How do we know that the chain itself is what the hook says it is? Well, people that build these chains have a lot more letters behind their name than me. And every 6th or 7th link, they'll put a stamp into that link. What does that say? RG7, all right? So you can measure this chain. It'll give you it'll tell you it's the 5/16, and then RG7 will tell you that this is a RG7, a G7 chain, G700, G70 chain, and tells you it has that tensile strength. So very strong chain. This is what the gold chains is what they call transport chain. It's used to tie vehicles down. It's a very good chain. But like I said, when it comes to recovery, we want a minimum ½ inch because of the kind of force that we're putting on this stuff, okay? So once again, does that answer your question? Look at the links, look at the hooks, all right? So yes, look at you. Look at you. You're trying to quiz the instructor. I like you. I like you, all right? You're going to have to do better than that, though, all right? I agree. All right, so looking at the, I'll get into this more in just a second here, guys, but really important, if you're going to use a chain for recovery, a couple things to keep in mind. One, you're torquing it out. You're not putting slack in that. Do not put slack in the chain. Tighten it up and torque it out nice and slow. And two, we want a minimum G7 ½ inch or greater, okay? So say you want to use a 5/8 G7, perfect. A ½ inch G8, perfect. But that's the minimum. That's the minimum we want to use, nothing less. You wouldn't use this chain to pull somebody out, all right? Even though, I will tell you, these chains are very tough, all right? These G7 chains, I always tell, like when it comes to load securement, and Donnie will talk about this more with you guys later, but you know, as soon as you think it's tight enough, give it a couple more cranks. I can assure you, this chain will break you before you break it. All right. It doesn't stretch, it doesn't bend. They're very, very strong chains, and that's why they're called transport chain, is because they're designed for load securement. And we'll get more into this. So I'm going to pass around these hooks, guys, so you can see. I want you to pay attention. All right, you can see what size it is, and you can see the actual grade of it. All right, so really important. I want you to get in the habit of anything you use for recovery, it better have these stamped markings on it. If they're not stamped, that means they're not rated. If they're not rated, we don't want to use them for recovery. Make sense? All right, sweet potatoes. Can I have my clicker back, Ronnie?
No.
Huh? You get your own clicker. All right, unbelievable. Okay. All right, how do you connect two straps together, guys? All right, so poor Ronnie's stuck way in the ditch. I got a 20-foot strap. Jonah, you got a 20-foot strap. We got to connect these babies together. All right, how do we connect these babies together and do it safely to pull him out of the ditch? What do you think? Use a shackle. Ooh. Where's my shackle? I got a shackle back there, guys? All right, you want to bring me a shackle? Just any shackle. Okay, so, all right. Okay, bring me that shackle. There you go, thank you. Oh, geez. Thanks, Scotty. Okay, so I've seen people do this, guys, and this is a big no-no, okay? It's a big no-no, is to put this shackle in here. Now, the reason for that is because metal stuff, things, go onto fixed ends, all right? So you see this strap, obviously been used quite a bit. There's always an inherent risk, and if this fails in the middle here, now what do you have here? You got a cannonball. I might rather get hit with an actual cannonball than get hit with this, okay? At least the cannonball's round. This is jagged edges, you know what I mean? This will mess you up. And it's going to go swinging back in the other direction. Anything metal is going to go on fixed ends. We don't put metal stuff in the middle of a pull, especially when we're putting slack in it, okay? So no, we do not use a bow shackle. What's our other options here? Well, come on up here. Yeah, show me a thing or two. You know what? You're gonna teach me something today, and that's what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? I want to learn something today too. It's not fair that you guys get to learn everything. I want to learn something too. All right. So what do you want here?
And then put the end of this one through here.
Oh well.
Yeah. You know
Okay.
what I'm after, see?
Okay.
So,
Okay. Well. Yeah. You do you. You just
Is
yeah.
it right?
Sure. Let's try it.
Lost. Oh, show me.
Oh no. Okay. Were you trying to do
So
this?
it's,
Were you trying to do this?
no,
Okay. Were you trying to do this?
I don't think so.
Well, what were you trying to do?
Yeah, I'm trying to do that.
You're trying to do that. Okay, well, come back up here. You're not done yet. No, you're not. No, you're not. Okay, so what's nice about this is when this tightens up, you're going to have one really long strap forever.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, because you
I
ain't
think
you
that's
ain't
what I was
get
trying
you
to
ain't
do,
getting
though.
it undone. It ain't gonna happen. All right. But and the other thing here,
Oh
guys,
yeah, that is what I was trying to do.
it is
And
when
I've
we
had it come-
is when we bend the threads 360 degrees like that, we reduce this strap's pulling capacity by 50%. All right. So that is not how we want to do it. But you're on the right track. Okay. Okay. You take that.
Both
All right.
of them?
Yeah, you take both of them. All right, I'm going to come over here. All right, so we got our two straps. We want to connect them both together properly. All right, you put the yellow through the black. There you go. I'm going through the black through the yellow. And let's go and pull on it. Okay, and so now here, this is, now you can see how we're not bending the threads, are we? It's a much straighter pull. Now the problem with this is, yeah, you tighten this up, you're going to have one really long strap forever. So the professionals in the industry, as crazy as it sounds, we're going to take something, whether it's a magazine, a pair of gloves, and then we'll do a little tug of war, all right? Oh, okay, holy crap, you're strong. Wow. All right, so you need something in the middle there, all right? But just something. It's going to be a pair of gloves. It can be a magazine, something that can pop out and just give you a little bit of space, and then these straps will come right apart, no problem. This was several classes ago. A guy had dared me, and we did 9 straps together. 9 straps, and we connected them all with gloves and different things. Every single strap came apart, and we had to tighten it up hard. Every single strap came apart. So that way you're not having one really long strap forever, and you're not bending it 360 degrees, all right, which is going to reduce that strap's pulling capacity by 50%, okay? So that's important, a nice little trick, because all too often that happens where we need to connect a couple straps together in order to get someone out of the ditch. And that's the other thing is, can we use toe straps with recovery straps?
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, because the only difference is we just need something to absorb that shock load, right? And so you could have six toe straps, have one recovery strap in the middle, all right? Do you have something that's going to absorb that shock load? Yeah, and that's fine. You just need something to absorb that shock load. Everything else, it's not going to jerk those other straps because all the shock is going to go where? It's going to get absorbed by the snap strap. Yep, very good. So once again, never use a bow shackle to connect 2 straps together. It's lethal. Connect 2 straps by putting one into the loop of the other and vice versa. Then place something in between so it doesn't bind up. Like a stick, a pair of gloves. I used a big clump of grass one time, and it actually worked. So you just need something in the middle there that you can pull out, and so that way it'll come apart easy. But nice little trick there. Very effective. Works really well. Things never to do for recovery, again, never use a bow shackle, connect 2 straps together, it's lethal. Once again, you don't want to put metal stuff in the middle. Metal stuff always goes on fixed ends. Never hook onto like a CV axle or control arm. Never use anything with metal to recover a vehicle, chain, cable, etc. You're going to break equipment, it's extremely dangerous. So typically speaking, for you and I, you don't have a bulldozer laying around, you're going to have to put some slack in that strap. If you got to do that, the proper recovery equipment is what you need. Never use straps with metal hooks. So straps with metal hooks are always going to be designed for tow. They don't make any recovery equipment straps with metal hooks, all right? And then never use a trailer hitch ball for recovery because it isn't made for shock load. It doesn't have that grade. It can break and then you literally have a cannonball coming flying at you. Not fun. And then never use a chain to recover a vehicle unless you can torque it out, which is not typically the case, all right? Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
What about winches?
So winches, the same thing. Yeah. So winches, can winches handle shock load? No, but they can handle a lot of what? A lot of torque. Exactly. So winches and chains are going to fall in the same category. So that's why like tow trucks use winches and chains, but you ever seen them jerk somebody out? No, they torque it out nice and slow using that torque. They're not able to have to jerk them or give them a hard pull. No, it's nice and easy. So they can handle a ton of torque just like chains can, but they can't handle that shock load.
Are cables rated like chains?
Yes. So not quite the same, but you're going to have a working load limit and a braking strength. And so they're rated similarly that way. Yes. Good question. And we didn't get into like snatch blocks and stuff like that and some like self-recovery stuff. Like, because if you're using a winch, like on the front of a Jeep or something, you got to know how to use the winch, and then you got to know how to use a tree saver strap. I saw a video the other day of a guy had a winch, not the synthetic rope, but an actual metal winch, wrapped it around a tree, and it was like a big pine tree like this, and started pulling it. Guess what happened? Yeah, cut the tree, and then of course the tree's got to land right next to him. You know, I'm like, what the heck, you know? So, you know, you use winches, you got to use a tree saver strap, and then typically you want to hook it up to some type of snatch block as well, so that you're going to increase that torque and capability. We're not getting into that deep stuff, but there's a lot more things you can learn here, guys. This is a good foundation, you know what I mean? Not to grab that and put it over top of your ball. That's the big takeaway. Any other questions on that?
For the record, that's how I was gonna hook that strap up. You got me up, you got me nervous. I didn't know what to do no more.
Okay. For the record, all right? For the record, all right, you're good. You're good. Okay, I will tell you guys there's a couple other things that are coming out more popular. So you see synthetic D-shackles becoming more popular. So these have the same exact rating as the metal ones, all right? I've used this a couple times here just for kind of demonstration purposes, and honestly, it's been really effective. And from what I'm reading, you can use this to connect two straps together as well, because it doesn't weigh anything. So you can pass that around as well. But that's another option.
Would you put that around this instead of that? You know what I mean? Like, is that
Oh.
how you'd use that?
Yeah. So yep,
Through the hitch,
yep.
like
You
that?
could do that through the hitch. You could do that to connect stuff together. You could do that to help working with bridles. You know what I mean? So there's a couple different options I would do that with. The only thing is, if you're gonna wrap it around anything, it better be around something smooth, so it can't cut. Anytime you're dealing with fabric, that's the negative of that, is it can be cut.
You'd have the same problem with doing that. It's on the edge of that hitch.
Yeah, you would, but it would be less likely because it's a smaller profile. You know what I mean? So it's not. But that's where that pole's got to be perfectly straight, perfectly straight. And so this is another. So this is a synthetic rope bridle. All right. So this is going to be used as a bridle as well. This is a rope bridle as opposed to a strap bridle, but same type of thing. And you can see all this stuff, guys, has tags on it. All right. So you can see this right here. This has a working load limit of 9,000 pounds and a minimum braking strength of almost 30,000 pounds. All right, almost 30,000 pounds range. So 9,000. So you could easily use this. This isn't going to fail on you. And this even has a protective coating to help stop that if it is potentially a little sharp or whatnot, to help stop it from cutting. So you can see that as well. So like I said, all this stuff has the right stuff on it. So yeah, guys, I encourage you to take a look at some of this stuff. It's